we say amazing things at funerals, and we do amazing things at funerals, but sometimes we don't do it in advance. And I think that that's something that's pretty powerful, and I love the concept.
I can't even put into words how grateful I am for everything that she did for me.
Oh my God, yes. I'm so glad you two did this. And, every day is not a guarantee.
We are the pallbearers of positivity.
She knows her worth and her value, and she doesn't let anybody walk over that in any kind of way.
I have behaved myself. I have done everything I'm supposed to, and it's still not enough.
You're there. Like, there is nothing more to achieve. Like, right now, you are the person that you thought you wanted to be in your obituary. Like, you're already that woman.
Y'all are amazing. I'm obsessed with the both of you.
Welcome to your funeral.
Welcome to your funeral. Thank you for joining us today at the Welcome to Your Funeral podcast, the podcast that simultaneously boosts serotonin and dopamine with a twist. I'm Virginia Silke. I am here with my co-host, Beth Savage. We hope you enjoy this unique episode of Welcome to Your Funeral. The entire installment revolves around Emily Moore, reflecting on composing her obituary. Her insights were so captivating, sometimes hilarious, and oftentimes very meaningful, and we couldn't bear to leave anything out. So without further ado, here is a whole episode with Emily Moore reflecting on her obituary.
My name is Emily Moore. I use she, her pronouns, and I think the most important thing about myself is that I'm a weaver in both my personal life and my professional life. I think weaving to me for work in my role as a policy analyst is, as I touch on in this discussion, is really around like how do we connect each other deeper, more personally, more transformationally, so that we can change this world that we live in. But like personally, weaving, to me means finding my people, finding my place, and that doesn't necessarily have to just be where you live, right? Like for me being a weaver is finding the ways that we connect each other and support one another and create these very transformational relationships that carry us forward and fuel us. And so that is, if I had to on my headstone, Emily Moore I would say Emily Moore was a weaver.
All right. So it's nice to see you, I just want to say that, and to see your face. And I hate to say this to former students, but because it sounds like I'm their mommy or something, but I'm so proud every time I see what you're doing. It makes me so proud. And I'm like, I know her. Because you're changing shit. You're doing stuff. You're being powerful in the world. And I'm proud of you. That's all.
You know that we often do some weird things, but they all are usually based in science of some sort. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send you an email, and it will have a PDF in it. And you are to go through the PDF page by page. And what we're going to do is send that to you. And then when you are done, you will come back to the studio and we will chat about it.
Here to sit in the discomfort. I am a crier.
One eternity later.
Emily.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm sweaty.
I'm always sweaty, so good for you.
I am just so sweaty.
Are you so sweaty because you were just so engulfed in thinking about life?
Aww.
Engulfed is not the word, I don't think, but yes, I'm just having maybe a little bit of an existential crisis.
No.
Well, no,
in a good way, I think.
Existential crisis. Then
Yes.
by all means have it, particularly online in front of other people.
No, that's where, if you're going to have one, it needs to be witnessed by strangers.
It's the best way to do it. How we learn from one another, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point.
That is true.
So just overall, was it more intense than you thought, or?
I think it was a different level of intense than I thought. I didn't cry, which that's not me. So now I'm kind of something wrong? Did I change in the last day or so? I am a crier. Why am I not crying right now? But in a way, I think it was it was intense in like an empowering kind of way, but also I was able to like poke some holes in some things where I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I'm not dead yet, so like here's where I'm gonna change. So much of my young adulthood to my work that I had such a hard time talking about myself personally, and it's kind of a bit of a crisis that I have been dealing with over the last summer. I just finished up a leadership program through Virginia Civic Engagement Table called the Virginia Progressive Leadership Program. Super introspective, and a lot of it's done in community with a lot of other folks. And I was like, yeah, wow, like here I am, 29 years old, and I feel like I should have all these crazy stories to tell. And so much of what I connect my identity back to is my work, because my work is so personal, right? And like such an important piece. But as I was writing this, I was like, wow, like I have a ton of professional accomplishments to talk about, but like, where's my personal shit in here?
Well, sometimes that's the realization. I think both Dr. Savage and I just turned into Professor Lady. Both Beth and I.
Dr. Savage.
Dr. Savage, would you weigh in on this? Both Beth and I have also come to that realization, which is part of why we are doing this. Is
100%,
like, let's do a thing together that we love that isn't work related.
That's risky, yeah. And so, Emily, I was so interested to have you on because you are so young and because your work is your passion. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, in some ways, I really kind of look up to your generation as people who are more empowered, who really think about their boundaries. And so I was super interested to hear you be like, I got this, obituary. You know, like, I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do in the world.
I put the bitch in obituary.
That's right. Yes, Emily. And so, but I do, and especially in the kind of work you're in, it seems like it would feel so personal, you know? And so how can you stop when you go home because you know what's on the line?
Yeah, I have I don't know if we're going to get into like me reading my obituary back to you or what this is going to look like, but I have a line in there that I think speaks to that, which I'll hold for the time being. But
tell us. Go, like, we want your like raw feedback, like, and if that's the line that sticks out to you, like, let's do it.
Yeah, so I've got this whole thing, my accomplishments, all the things that I would want people to talk about to me, and then I have Emily had recently come to the realization that rest is our birthright, and was striving to slow herself down and find joy in things more intentionally. And that is so where I am right now. I've been doing a lot of work around like Dr. Sean Ginwright's healing-centered engagement, and really like moving beyond our trauma to like what's possible with us. And so in the last, probably like 5-6 months been like, you know what, Emily, you get to say no to things, and that's okay, and like no can be a complete sentence, but it's hard to like practice what I preach. Really?
It is. My favorite thing is like, you can say no and you don't have to explain yourself, because mediocre white dudes never do. They just say no, but women constantly say, like, we're constantly in a place where we have to be like, oh, well, let me tell you why I can't do this, because I'm already committed to all these other things, but I really wish I could do this. And like, men just say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I love
like,
that you say, and we never criticize
question it.
Yeah. I love that you said practice what you preach.
Talk about it, and I'm slowly integrating the right things into the right spaces, but damn, it's hard.
It is a lifelong struggle, because I don't know how you come home and don't bring your work home with you. It's about like the people who have so much stuff to offer are the ones who have imposter syndrome, right?
Oh my God. It's so funny you say that, because like, I don't know if you can see imposter syndrome like right here.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what did you say no to because you knew that it would derail your goals? Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind. For the first year of this policy career that I like switched to from social work out of nowhere, I was like, I am not qualified to be here with these people. Like, they've got 50 letters after their names. They have like all of this experience, and like, I am just a social worker. And it took, I don't even know that I'd say I'm over it, the imposter syndrome. Like, I still walk into rooms sometimes and I'm like, ooh, girl, do I belong here? Like, am I supposed to be here? Wow, this is nuts. But for me, like, saying no to that is like how I'm able to just keep going. I'm like, you can't accept that, but like, ooh, is it real?
So tell us a little bit about how you're figuring out setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
'Cause it sounds like you are.
I'm trying. Yeah. I'll tell you, the biggest thing is in the world of policy, social justice policy, child and family policy, all of these like pieces of the world that my work touches, it's so intersectional and interconnected that like we at Voices, where I work, are the state's only multi-issue child and family policy and advocacy organization.
Wait, so we're only in Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of policy and advocacy orgs, but no other ones that are specifically focused on these intersectional issues that impact kids and their families. Wow. We don't do our work in a silo, that's for sure. We certainly work with our partners at like Virginia Poverty Law Center and the ACLU and, you know, really great folks doing really great work. But like we are a team of 9 and we are covering so many issues that are important, and there's just no way like literally from a capacity standpoint that we can do all the things. Yeah. And like at the same time, how do we say no to taking on issues that are important and foundational to like getting children and families out of poverty? It's a fight and it's a struggle, and we're a policy team of 3. So, you know, the 3 of us covering like mental health policy and child welfare policy and early care and education policy and healthcare policy and tax policy. Boundaries, right? It's like where do we draw those? Mm-hmm. And for me, it really has been this struggle of like, how do I separate and say no to these things that like are not only going to change other people's lives, but like would change my life too, you know? So I do struggle to like find that switch, because I mean, you just don't turn these issues off. If you work in them all day and then they're all over the news and they're all over your social media and then like you personally deal with them. Like my mom, for example, is on Medicare. She has been a victim of the system, if you will. I mean, trying to get health insurance and, you know, turning 65 and trying to, you know, live on a fixed income and do all of these things. Like it's in my personal life too. So like, how do you turn that off? I don't know. I'm still working on it. But the thing that I have really truly leaned into is like just finding things that I can do that are separate from work. So like y'all have you're like, I get to do this podcast, it's so much fun. Yeah. Like separates yourself from work a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I joined a kickball team, an adult rec kickball team.
So what is your kickball team's name? What do you do?
It is Trippin' Balls.
Shut up. I do appreciate a pun. I appreciate a pun.
Yes, so we are Trippin' Balls. We drink and play kickball. We are in super social, so there's some leagues that like they really compete for like a championship and like a belt and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. We are not. We lose. I think our last 2 seasons we have maybe won a combined 3 or 4 games. We suck. We're so bad.
Do you have fun?
Oh my God, we have so much fun.
Amazing.
It's my release. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go play kickball. I'm going to go, you know, do this thing. Yeah. I got to find something that does not work. And I started throwing pottery again. So that's a lot of fun.
What? That's amazing.
Really bad. So this is where I very much have to focus on breaking that inner perfectionist. I had a craft, but my craft is out the window. My last 3 pieces have been terrible, but I've got them displayed around the house because
good.
Wait, they're like making the ashtray in 7th grade, right? Like somebody's going to want to do something with this.
Emily did not make an ashtray in 7th grade.
I did not.
Because smoking was already like not cool. Okay. Yeah, I've got an ashtray I made for my mom, and I was like, she's going to use the hell out of this because she smokes like a chimney.
My mom does too. Okay, I actually think by 7th grade, I was probably still showing up to school like mom smoked with the windows up on the way there, like smelling like cigarette smoke. Like I was the ashtray.
So wait, Emily, I want to see your pottery. Is it somewhere you can grab?
Yeah, give me a sec. Okay, so I've only got 2 of them, but I will share them with you.
I'm so excited.
The first one, they teach us like how to, you have to like build it up and bring it back down and like smooth it out. Mm-hmm. This one didn't get too smoothed out very well, but the glaze made it look really cool. Okay. So this is my first it's just a little jar. It has no real purpose other than that it's, kind of cute. I did a nice job
epic.
Down here.
I like the bottom. Yeah.
I like the bottom
it's,
and the top.
Not even, but
I would not have noticed that. Yeah.
Whatever.
That's how you know it's handmade.
This one is a mistake that I embraced. I accidentally jammed my thumb through the side of this, and there was really no way that we could like fix it other than to like give it a little swirl. So it turned out like this.
I love it.
And I gave it this glaze because it kind of looks like a little cinnamon roll. It kind of gives me like donut vibes.
Perfect. It's like it's like a little spout.
It looks intentional. Let me show you. I want to show you really quickly the pottery I made. Do you have a minute?
Yes. I have like however many minutes.
This is it.
It does not exist.
I've never made anything in my life. But I think the way we define success from a very young age is so measured. It's so like reach this level. And then we get really, really scared about things like art, where there is not a clear level, where everything feels subjective. And we suddenly, because we all measure ourselves by these completely subjective, external, right, characteristics or validations, that we get really, really scared to do those things that matter to us and that cannot be judged objectively.
Emily, you are a woman, you have to push harder. And I just love so much that like we're starting to like throw that idea in the trash can. We're like, you know what? I actually don't have to get 2 hours of sleep and do all these things. Like sometimes my work can just be good enough. It doesn't have to be gold star every time. And like sometimes my good enough is probably somebody else's gold star, right? But like
Absolutely.
I love that there are parents like y'all and folks that are like telling the next generation, like, you don't have to adhere to these bullshit standards that actually don't mean anything. I'm at this point where I'm like, the world's probably going to end. Like, I probably need to live a little and like throw out the expectations.
Play the kickball.
Make the pottery.
Trip in the balls.
Yes.
Trey also play kickball with you?
Yes, and he is a little more competitive than our league is, and so
he's a little mad that you haven't won the belt.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back to our team. I think he's decided like either he's not going to play or he needs to move up in the ranks.
Like, how do you manage the fiance, the kickball, and the saving the world Emily
the entire
that we love?
State of Virginia,
But and apparently all the policies in Virginia. But how do you do that and still maintain an Emily?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I don't know that you're going to appreciate my answer.
I will accept your answer regardless.
I'll tell you, our focus probably in the last like year since we moved to Richmond has probably been more on work, just because we have been both trying to like get our footing here, and we've both just kind of realized like neither one of us want to work, neither one of us want to grind, neither one of us want to hustle anymore. And like, what does that look like in actuality? We're having a lot of conversations around like, how do we prioritize us? How do we prioritize like the things that bring us joy? When do we go back home and see our parents? When do we go back home and get Biscuitville and not tell anybody that we're there?
Okay, time out. I've still never been to Biscuitville.
I'm hanging up.
Bye, Emily. Sorry.
I'm leaving.
This episode is over.
But the one in Madison Heights has my heart. And just a random fact, that is the northernmost Biscuitville in the country.
Northernmost?
Yes.
In Madison Heights?
Yes, they're only in North Carolina. I think there's one opening in Charleston, and then there's 4 in Virginia, and the one in Madison Heights is the northernmost. I am their #1 fan.
So what kinds of things? So definitely the boundaries are something you're already thinking about. Like, how can I be my own person? And also, give as much as you can to your job, but also turn off when you come home. So clearly that's something that you're already working on. Is there anything else that you wrote about there? And I'm glad you didn't cry. I am. I mean,
I'm a little disappointed.
I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I wanted to come back like, look at me, I'm broken.
Is there anything else that you felt? So some of the questions were like, what have you not done? Or who will miss you the most? Any of those questions that you feel like opened up a little door for you?
Yeah, I sat with the who will miss you the most. Actually, so it's funny. At first I read it as who will you miss the most?
Right.
And then I was like, oh wait, God. I'm dead. I was like, oh yeah, I'm dead. So this is not what that says. Right. But I sat with that question actually for a bit, and I am still not sure that I've just got, I just don't know if I know the answer. It's funny, when I listened to Siobhan's episode and she was kind of talking about this too, I got really teary-eyed listening to that, because I was like, man, I know that question, if it comes to me, is going to hit me. And it did. And I still hadn't like given it the thought ahead of time that I now kind of wish I would have. But like, part of me, I go, of course, first to my mom. Like, she birthed me, right? Like, birthed me and then dealt with me. I was a monster. Like, you're laughing, but like, I'm serious. Like, she got me almost out of jail a couple of times. Like, I probably should have like I probably should not be the successful woman that I am.
No,
So-
you absolutely should be,
Yeah.
regardless of
That's right.
past.
You got to take risks, right?
Fair, yes.
Yeah,
And Lord,
yeah.
did I take some. And she got me out of so much shit. I know I gave her her whole head of gray hair. Like, I just know it's all for me. And yet, if my brother listens to this, like, I'm still her favorite kid. And so...
He needs to know. He
Okay,
needs to
that's
know.
only
Yeah.
funny because, like, the majority of people that we've interviewed have been like, P.S. I'm my mom's favorite. Like, everybody wants that
Yeah.
shout out, so we'll give you that
Yeah,
shout out.
absolutely. Yeah.
And she will tell you that. And she'll tell him that. She's like,
Good,
you know what?
good.
Like, I love you, but she's my favorite. And I think
Yes.
maybe because we had to become kind of like friends for a minute there for me to like listen to her and pay attention to her and like learn from her. God, like, is she going to miss me the most? And then I was like, I've literally spent the last 11 years of my life with Trey. Like, we live together. We spend damn near 24 hours a day together in most cases other than work. Like, I've moved him away from his family and his friends to the city.
Okay,
Like,
you didn't move him. He made the choice.
Yeah.
You both moved
Fair.
together.
He wanted to be with
fair,
you.
fair,
Yeah.
very fair. But I was like, man, like, we've grown up together. Like, literally started dating when I was 18 and
That's
he was 20.
wild.
Yes. And like have been through some growth and some like the worst times of our lives, the best times of our lives. Like, I've got these two very different situations and I'm like, I can't compare these two. Like, they'll both
Right.
miss me the most and miss me differently. But like,
Okay, again,
Yeah.
not a
That's
competition, even though we
No.
made it sound
Yeah,
like one.
yeah.
But so you think those would be the folks who miss you the most?
Yeah.
yeah, it really hit me. I was like, man, like, they know me inside and out and upside down and in between. And
Yeah.
I just, that question, I was like, I can't die because
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how the people around me are going to handle it. I'll tell you, the person who will miss me the least is my cat, Benson. He's going to be like, thank God she's gone.
Cats
Evil.
they think they're not going to miss anybody, and then no one feeds them, and they're like, rude.
They're like, wait a minute, Trey doesn't feed me? It was Emily all this time?
A couple of weeks ago, he has an automatic feeder, and I did forget to like fill it up, and like he's like rubbing on, he's like being super nice to me, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized he had no food and hadn't eaten all day, and I was like, okay, well.
Is there anything else about your obituary that was helpful or eye-opening or useful to you? Because again, we're ready for people to be like, nah, I got this. Like, I've thought about all these things before. So if not, that's fine. But if there's anything unusual that kind of hit you different, you can tell us about it.
Yeah, it's funny, as I was thinking about this, I wonder how much of this is just like what I think about myself. I'm kind of really curious to see what other people will say, because I really do wonder how refined I try to explain who I am and all of these things, and like how raw some other folks might be. And I've been thinking about this. Like, I know that there are things that people will probably say about me when I'm really gone that like they're not going to say right now because I know I'm going to hear it.
Okay, but
And I'm
like what? What do you think people will really say?
I am a bit of a loose cannon when I'm having a little too much fun. And so I think realistically, like if I had like, let's say something happened to me, I die, and a bunch of like folks get around like a bonfire and start drinking some beer, passing some tequila around, celebrating Emily. This is what I hope that my memorial service is in real life. Like, just people sharing their most wild stories. They're gonna share the moments where like, Emily had too much to drink and she threw up in public, or like Emily passed out on a sidewalk, or like, hey, remember that time Emily got drunk and got on a bird scooter and like wrecked herself? Like, I know those are the type of stories they will tell about me when I'm gone that they're probably gonna like not say to y'all.
Oh.
And it's something I almost feel like I teeter between like, I should maybe be embarrassed. Like, people should not talk about that. And I'm like, you know what? No. Like, Emily has this other side of herself that she shares with the people closest to her. And sometimes people that I don't know accidentally, when it's gone a little too far.
They accidentally get to see it.
Yeah. But I'm curious how people talk about that, and how they like teeter this line of like, while we're here, we have to be respectful, and we can't make people we can't get too personal, and we can't make people look
people
too
are human.
fun.
People be people no
Yes.
matter what.
Yes, but how often do we try to make ourselves the most presentable version
Oh,
of ourselves?
all the freaking time.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm really trying to lean into this, like, you know, sometimes I don't make the best decisions, and I can still go to work and be a professional. I can still go out into the world and be Emily, and like all of these things can coexist.
Exactly.
For better or worse.
Mostly better. Mostly better.
Let's go with that.
But that's what, like, that's how you leave your influence on your friends, right? Like, you're not saving them in the way you're saving, like, I don't know, the entire state of Virginia. Yeah, right. But you are, like, those are the things that people remember. Like, you do change people's lives in those little ways, like, because they remember those really funny stories.
Like the scooter that I'm now very intrigued by.
I can't.
There's a video.
Oh, hallelujah.
We'll have to share that with you.
Thank the Lord.
Your personal
because sometimes good things come to those who wait.
That's right. Yeah.
It was, I have not gotten on one since. I'll tell you that. So,
I can tell you that I've never been on a scooter. So
don't do it.
Okay.
They're death traps.
I will die. Yeah. But I think, you know, so when we go back to the idea of like success as being defined by other people, right? Like, certainly you are one of the people we're going to interview who have success in changing people's lives as your job, like literally as your job, like legislatively, you are changing people's lives. But on the day to day, like, it is that little stuff that people remember. Like, Emily is so fun and she's not full of shit. Like, she's not fake. Like, she can hang out with us and be her real self. And here's how we benefited from that because we laughed our asses off.
Like, as I was writing this obituary for myself, I really was focused on all these like accomplishments. And I think about when the script is flipped, that like folks probably aren't going to write about those things. Like, they're not going to write those things about me. They are probably going to be like, you know what? She was a ball of fire. She didn't take any shit. She did not give a damn who heard her say what. Trey will tell you, like, how many times he's had to, like, grab me in public and be like, you need to watch your language. Like, there are children. I think, you know, the things that make us quirky and, like, you know, set us apart from, like, what society kind of sets us up to do, I hope are the things that folks call out about me that sometimes I don't celebrate.
Out of all of the reflection that you've done, what was the thing that you were like, damn, I should have thought about that previously and hadn't?
That's a good question and a tough one. I think, again, it comes back to me just realizing the way that, like, I talk about myself and present myself and criticize myself and try to put this image of me out into the world that, like, for what reason? And again, just recognizing that, like, you know, so much that I wrote about myself was like all these external accomplishments and how much better I can be, like, in celebrating who I am and, like,
because you're
out that person.
Yes, right there. Yes,
you're amazing.
Yes.
In the heart. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite thing about yourself, Emily? Like, what are you most proud of?
I think, you know, if you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said, like, I am so hardworking. I strive to do so many things. And I think the answer for me today is that I give myself so much grace and compassion compared to, like, what I've given myself in the past. Like, I am learning to love this version of me now and knowing that, like, I'm not going to be her tomorrow and I'm not going to be her in 2 weeks. And, like, that is okay. This idea that, like, healing is not linear is, like, really sticking with me of, like, it's okay to have a bad day and, like, don't beat yourself up about it. And, like, it's also okay to have a bad week. And, like, sometimes you have a bad month. And I have not done this in a silo. I really, like, shout out to my coworkers. We are all social workers, which, like, doesn't happen in a policy space ever. And I got into this work, like, the hustle, the grind, like, we're going to do this. We work in urgent systems. And my colleagues are all like, no, we're not. We are going to rest. We are going to take time off. We are going to set boundaries. Like, if we can't do the thing, we're not going to do the thing. And if we can't do it, you know, well and with community, then we're not going to do it either. And so they've really taught me, like, in the last year, like, say no, but, like, mean it. Like, don't just say it performatively, right? Because you feel like you have to, but, like, say it and mean it. And for me, having somebody else giving me permission to give myself grace and space, like, has changed so much for me. I'm not great at it. Like, there's still days where I'm working for like 12 hours and haven't taken a lunch break. And I acknowledge that. But then there's days where I'm like, you know what? I've done 2 tasks. I'm going to call it a day. Like, so I think my favorite thing about myself in this moment is the ability for me to like love her back and to like give her permission to take it easy if you need to, and kind of, you know, just have that compassion for yourself that you want to have for others.
I really appreciate that you put that into words so beautifully, because I think that's something that everyone struggles with.
I wish that it had been modeled for me before 29, and I want to help model it for young people, you know, now. And you know, I think it's funny when we hear some of these like folks that are like, oh, well, young people don't want to work. They don't want anybody to tell them what to do, like yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, good for them. Like, can you imagine a world where we weren't just like striving to make the widget, send the widget out the door? Like, can you imagine a world where like we actually connected with each other and built community with each other and like really cared about each other? Like how it's a possibility. Because I spent so much time putting all these accomplishments and all these things because that is what society told me I had to do. And now I'm like, I don't want to be Emily Moore, social worker, Emily Moore this. I want to be Emily Moore. Period. Like whatever
human
that
being.
means.
Yes.
I want to be Emily Moore, the person.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it is possible. And I think, you know, there's a lot of work that has to go into it, but like trying to really, it's not just about changing these like big systems, capital S, like changing these like societal systems that we've created that say you've got to go, you've got to go, you've got to go. Like, why are we retiring at 65 to die 10 years later? Like, I want to live right now. Timing of this is just so opportune and touching for me because similarly, as I mentioned, we lost Trey's dad, and like his memorial service was a celebration of life. Like, people sang and they celebrated and they told all these fun stories, and it was like this is what this, like, I hate that it had to be here and now, right? But like this is what it should be. Like, we should be celebrating in that way. And I'm just, this podcast comes at such an important time in realizing that like we got to be doing that right now.
Gosh, we all deserve to hear what people really believe and think about us like right now, because when we're dead, it doesn't fucking matter.
And I think too, like this interconnectedness of us as people, like far too often our relationships are so transactional, but like what if we really focused on having more transformative and transformational relationships with each other?
Yep.
You know, like the way we show up in this world is so like tit for tat, and it doesn't have to be. So like deconstruct, you are doing your part to like deconstruct this idea that like this is how it has to go. Like, no, we can be deeply vulnerable with each other. I am like, I will show up to a meeting with a bunch of strangers, and like at Voices we do diversity welcomes and like all of our meetings, and we get real personal. We're like, this is how I am personally connected to this work. And in some spaces people are like, this is not professional, and we're like, we like to talk about work-life integration because we are not different people. Like, I bring my shit to work with me and I take my work home with me. Like, there is no work-life balance. It is all about integration, baby. This is how we change systems. We can do policy all day long, but until we deeply connect with each other and like our issues, like that is the work, is like connection with each other. That is what we are missing. We are an individualist society, and we don't have to be. We don't have to be.
Oh dear.
I know. I was going to say, if your goal is to make Silky cry, you have achieved it.
You have unlocked the next level.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Sorry and honored. Just I'm thankful for y'all. I know I appreciate you finding a space to celebrate me and like my accomplishments and like me and my humanity, but like I would be remiss to not say that like I stand on the shoulders of so many people who got me here. Like, I'll take credit for some of it because like I'm damn smart and like I have worked really hard.
Yes, you did.
And there are a lot of people that like lifted me up when I was not ready to lift myself up. Pulling down the bricks, we are deconstructing all of this. Like, one of, I put this in my obituary, but like one of my favorite quotes, and I've got it on like sticky notes and all over the place, is by Arundhati Roy, and she says, "Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. on a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. And like, doesn't that just, you're like,
yes.
You know what? It is possible.
Yep.
We can do.
We truly can. And I honestly believe that. And even more so after hanging out with all of you listeners and Emily. A whole new world is approaching. We got this. With individuals like Emily Moore leading the way, positive changes are unfolding. Emily's generation is taking the world by storm. They're the grown-ups now. And P.S., they will not be taking the same shit that has been dealt out in generations past. I'm here for it. I'm ready to learn a new way of being. It is so time. Thanks for listening. Today was a fantastic episode, and there is so much more to come. We encourage you to share with your friends, listen to more of our content. And this is the part of our podcast where if we had sponsors, we would talk about them. So just for giggles, and the other word I won't say, I can't help but think that Biscuitville played such a significant role in infusing this episode with laughter and joy. I feel like if Biscuitville ever considered sponsoring us, they'd be winning. We'd be winning. I would actually try Biscuitville for the first time, though sponsoring podcasts is probably not Biscuitville's priority. But our podcast would be a super great choice for them because we have their number one fan who knows a disturbingly surprising amount of Biscuitville history off the top of her head. I'm just merely suggesting that Biscuitville should potentially take notice of our amazingness. We hope you will tune in for Emily's funeral episode. It is epic. You won't want to miss it. That's all for today. From us at Welcome to Your Funeral, Virginia and Beth wish you a fantastic day. Remember, folks, embrace your people.